Hello, everyone. My name is Armando Perez-Carreno, and today we're gonna be talking about three AI-enabled tools for small businesses. I'm live streaming to different platforms, so I was just waiting for it to propagate into Instagram, which is the one that takes the longest, but I think everywhere else we're good. So this is just gonna be a very laid back conversation about a few of the tools that we have used and have also used with customers. So I think this might help you if you have a small business and you're looking at something that might help you streamline business processes or help with customer support or just overall make everything more efficient. So we're going to talk about three tools and starting with one that I think makes a lot of sense for most businesses. Many businesses use spreadsheets, as you know, and it's very common that you have an Excel for something and another Excel spreadsheet for another thing and another one for another thing, or you might have this monster of a spreadsheet that someone built at some point in time and you keep using and you have all your customer data there and you're afraid to touch anything because it might come tumbling down like a house of cards. If that sounds familiar, there are better alternatives, and you don't have to start from scratch either. So that's going to be the first tool that we're going to talk about. This tool is called Airtable, and Airtable is a very nice tool. I had heard about it years ago, but had never really thought too much about it because, well, it's just another SaaS where you can put your data, right? However, one of our clients started using it. She was a non-developer. She just worked in a company, a training company for which we had built their website, their LMS, and she needed some data from the website linked to their other data for commissions, for example. And she built this whole dashboard using Airtable that looked fantastic and it had all the data that she needed. And she didn't need to do any programming, no coding, no anything. It just worked. And so I was amazed by that. And so I looked into it a little more. And it's grown so much since then into the AI space, like how it can build things for you. I'm going to show you a few examples here, but it's great because basically, think of it of a spreadsheet on steroids, right? You have your data in Excel or any other sheet or a Google Sheet, for example, and you might have your data semi-linked between different sheets. But maybe you're doing some VLOOKUPs, some nice formulas there, but it's still relatively structured and static. Whereas on something like Airtable, you can do some very advanced dynamic linking and date-based ranges and all that good stuff, and it handles it pretty well. And then another great thing is that it integrates with other third-party tools. So if you have another system or three or four different systems, you can use Zapier and you can bring in the data, or make.com, you can bring in the data automatically and interact with the different sources and build your own like little BI platform, if you will, right there without needing crazy tools. So Airtable is going to be the first one we're going to talk about today. And let me see if I can screen share. Here, if you go to Airtable, their marketing page is nice. You'll get more information there. But if you open an account, there's a free trial on it, like a 14-day free trial. You can go in there and it'll give you some very nice templates like for project management, resource allocation, marketing campaigns, social media calendar, product roadmap, product launch, expense tracker. Like there's a bunch of things that you would normally do in Excel that it already handles for you. It's already there. Like let's see, IT and support, for example, the organizational chart, the bug tracker, really big. So instead of using something like Jira, for example, that costs a ton, you could just build it right here. And the best part is you can build it based off of your data, which is, I think, really nice. And so how does it work? Well, you can start using a template, one of the templates that they have. You could just put it in and it'll just start working. Or you can use your data to build it, or you can generate something using AI, which is very interesting. So before we started the call, just because it takes a little bit, it has this feature where it says create with AI. And so if you start there, like if I go here, start with AI, it'll ask you what you want to do. Literally, you explain it, right? And then I told it, create a support system to manage customer requests. And in parentheses, I put tickets. And then it said, okay. And it started. And so it started doing everything. And then it says this. This is what it gave me. How does this look? Feel free to adjust anything you see or add more. These objects will appear as pages in your app, which you can rearrange later. And so here we are, overview, tickets, and it's got the Kanban with the tickets, and it's got the tickets timelines, and it's got the customers, and it's got the support agents with AI generated names, the gallery for them, the dashboard, the products that we have, the product gallery, the different departments that they have, categories, responses, etc. We could add more of these, like, I don't know, that, right? And then I could say create this app. And so taking that paragraph that I gave it just so that it would create something, it did this, which is pretty neat. I mean, in my opinion, it's pretty neat. So let's see what it does when I do create this. And let's take a look. And anyone who's here, just send me a little comment there in YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook or X, Instagram. Yeah. So I see that it's working. There we are. And so it says here, start with CodeBuilder. We don't want that right now. So look at this. It just built this support system for me. I'm just out of thin air. And now I have the customers, Door Explorer, the support agent, the product, the department, the category, and all the issue description, etc. But it's nice because all these, you see in progress, I could do this medium, etc. It built these as spills that I can use to sort and filter. If I look at a timeline, for example, it's going to show me the tickets on a date. If I click into anyone, it's going to have the details within it, and you can change everything inside these little models. If I have it in the Kanban, then I can see the tickets with all the information right there in the different categories. Like there's 3 in progress and there's 1 resolved, right? Then you can go into the issue. So like this just turned into its own little Notion, if you ever use Notion, which is another tool we should have mentioned. Notion, great for building little things. But I mean, the fact that it created this without you having to go and build out a whole thing off of the top of your head is great. You see these cards, the customer card, it built that card for you based on the data that we know we have from the customer, their email and phone number and company name. And so it's really nice because it shows you everything that's related. And so like I was saying at the beginning, it's like a spreadsheet, a super powered spreadsheet, because now I can go in and I can see knowledge-based articles, I can see the categories, I can see the different products and what they're linked to, right? And I can see related tickets to this product, for example. And it's just such a, look, view data. This is all the data, right? It's such a complete tool because you have all the spreadsheets, right, that you probably would have used, right, as spreadsheets, but then you can view it as a dashboard for interacting with the data instead of having to work and stay in the spreadsheet space, because you might be comfortable in that spreadsheet space, but maybe your sales manager isn't, right? Or maybe you created this massive Excel spreadsheet and you want to scale and you want to have other people in your team working with it, but you don't want to sort of hand off the Excel sheet because they might break something. Something like this is great because you can expose the data to them in different types of views, different interfaces, and even forms to input data, right? Like a submit a support request, and you can embed these in other places. And it just, I mean, it's great. If you ever had issues with spreadsheets, you can you know how valuable something like this is. So Airtable, great. I told you there's another way to create things instead of telling it to build something crazy going with AI. You can do import spreadsheets, and so you can import a bunch of your spreadsheets, and it'll read the data and it'll suggest how to organize that as well. And once you have the data in, as we were seeing over here, if I can actually escape from here, you can have this, and then you can say, now I want to view it in this other type of view, and then I want to give access to certain users to this platform as well. So it's pretty neat. What do you think? I think it's really neat. Okay, so that's Airtable. If you're planning on doing anything related to spreadsheets, or you're overwhelmed with that particular sheet, Google Sheet, Excel sheet, whatever that you're using, try it. I think you're gonna like it. It's not expensive to use either. So that's Airtable. Now, another tool that I want to talk about, sort of if we stay on the topic of support, is a live chat. And so I think one of the companies that provides the best, in my opinion, experience for live chat is Intercom. And if you don't have live chat, I'll talk a little bit about why I think you should have something for it. It doesn't have to be that you are there for the live chat, but let's just consider the live chat concept. And one of our customers recently launched, and they started getting a lot of customer requests, and their email can get saturated because email is not built for that. Email is not built to handle support requests. So you're going to get overwhelmed very quickly. You feel like all your inbox is full, and maybe there were just 20 requests, and maybe they're all very similar, and maybe they can all get the same response, right? And maybe you don't need to handle them. They should be someone else. And maybe there's something in your knowledge base that already tells them how to fix that. And so email is not the tool for this. You should have either a support ticket system or something to that regard. And so Intercom is great because it fills in that gap where you can have a ticketing system that doesn't feel like a ticketing system. Because some of the older legacy systems, and they have gotten better, but Zendesk and other legacy, or I don't know, the original systems that would help you with ticketing used to feel a bit cumbersome, where it's all very square. Whereas Intercom, there's a live chat within the website or the app. If you have a SaaS app or whatever, it lives there, and people interact with it just in a conversational way. Whether they're talking to a human or an AI agent, or they're talking directly to the knowledge base, it's all within a conversation. And then behind the scenes, you get all the ticketing features where you can keep track of a customer, how much they've spent, what's their last product purchase, if they're tagged with something, if a colleague of yours left some notes there, etc. You can have all the history there, so you're not blank every time you're talking with someone. Even if you're doing a conversation on the phone, you're on the road, they send something, you want to use the app and handle the request, you can see all that information right there at your fingertips from wherever you are. And so it's a great tool because you sort of get the best of both worlds. And so let me pull it up here so you can see what we're talking about. All right, so this is Intercom's website. And I was telling this client, you should get something like Intercom, because with Intercom, you can get, even if you don't want to do live chat, you can have that ticketing feature. And I'll show you what that looks like. So obviously this is theirs popping up right here. And so they actually have a floating version, which is the little live chat, or you can see it right here on the right. That is sort of a hybrid between the actual chat and just floating elements. And it was nice because it could show you a few suggested options without actually popping up the full chat. So that's a nice feature they have. But when we're here, I can just start talking with them. I could say chat with a product expert and I'll chat with them, or learn more about Intercom. And then that will actually not talk with someone. It will use their AI tool to start talking with me. So maybe what do I want to explore next? Well, I'm interested in a free trial, and that would take you to a flow over to how to get a free trial, right? Or I want to learn about pricing. So if I click that, it will start telling me about the pricing, and you can tell me, like I click here, it'll take me to the pricing plan right here, and I can see how this works. Now, behind the scenes, all this is getting tracked. So if an AI agent were to join the conversation, they can see where I am, where I went, what the agent was telling me, etc. And so they can keep track of where you are in that flow of that process and onboard you the correct way. And so the way this works is they have this sort of little chat widget that you can embed on your website. There's no real code. You just grab a little widget, you paste it in your site, and it's a little piece of code, but you don't have to know code to do it. And you can, when it's there, you can see your recent messages. It doesn't get lost. So the next time you visit the website, you can see all your conversations with them right there. Even if you have multiple conversations open from separate dates, you can send them a message. And then in here, they have their knowledge base thing where you can see maybe some publications, some news, or maybe they want to showcase something that's going on like they're doing here. You can include all that within the chat itself. Then if I go to help, this is the knowledge base. So I can search here for I don't know, with triggers, right? And it'll show me how to use ticket triggers with workflows. And so this is their knowledge base. Like this is a whole other tool, right? You typically would have a knowledge base separately. It could be within Intercom. And so within the chat itself, they can get the response and access to the knowledge base and get everything they need without even having to interact with someone. And that's what a lot of people want for specific things like, how do I change my password? You don't need to talk to someone to do that, right? You don't, how do I log out? That sort of thing. They can just find it here. Of course, they have the option to talk with a human, which is great in the case that it makes sense. So it's great. We talked about two little features that they have there, which is the live chat and then also their knowledge base part. But there are more things that are very nice, and specifically talking about the inbox. And if you've never used these tools, let me show you what something like this looks behind the scenes. If you're a small business owner, you're overwhelmed with the email, right? Imagine having this where you see all the conversations. You can click in the conversation and it will show you that that's where you're actually interacting with them in this nice little screen. And on the right side, you see all the metadata, all the details for the customer, where they came from, what's their lifetime value, or any other data that your other systems have. It could be pulled in here so that you have a full bird's eye view of who this customer is, where they came from, what they've done with your company, if they're a premium member, do they need VIP support, etc. All that is here. And then of course it has all the routing stuff where you can route it to another agent and all that good stuff. So it doesn't have to be just one person doing all this. It could be multiple people that are being rotated. Then you can transfer from one agent to another, etc. So it's really quite complete. And they have different tiers that you can use. But again, I have customers that are smaller businesses that sell, I don't know, meals, right? And they use this tool, and it's great because they can get immediate responses to their customers, and it doesn't feel like there's a disconnect between your service and the customer. A lot of times there's this like, I don't know who to reach out. Everything's very generic. This way it feels more like you actually can reach a human. And in many cases, you can, depending on how you set it up. Now, one great thing that they've added recently that they didn't have before is the Fin agent. And their Fin agent is an AI agent that's part of the tool that allows you to get support for giving support. That makes sense. So it'll suggest responses to people based on conversation history, based on a specific content source, etc. And so it's really nice because you can start having the conversation with the person. Let me see if I can show you an example of that here, where yes, it could be the agent that's talking to the person, but also it could be you that's talking with the agent. And as you are talking with it, and I think it's called Copilot. Yeah, here it is. So as you're talking with them, if they ask something about the refund, for example, on the sidebar with the AI Copilot, it'll give you suggestions, and you can say, oh, they're asking for the refund. They'll give you a response based off of your knowledge base or something else, and you can just click add to composer and it'll bring it down, and then you can modify it and send them that information. So instead of just canned responses, it will actually, based on the conversation, provide contextual responses that then you can send out to people. So that's also pretty neat. And then of course you have the ticketing. So ticketing is really important. This is what I was talking to my customer about, that when it's a longer thing that you have to check on something, maybe do some development to fix the issue, etc. In those scenarios, you might not close the conversation right there. You might want to have to follow up later on. If that's the case, tickets are great because it'll generate a ticket, it'll be sent to their email, and then you can keep that conversation going and then keep them updated whenever something happens. But then also, most importantly, your team members can see which tickets are still open and provide support to those people, and they don't get lost in your inbox, which I'm sure has happened to you before, as it has happened to me as well. So don't use your inbox for customer support. The great thing is it still feels like email because people can send you the messages, they can reply in the email, and you have everything right here in your dashboard, but you can still do those interactions via multiple channels. So one of the great things about intercom is that it's omni-channel. And that means that people can chat with you via the chat widget that we were looking at. They can also chat with you via WhatsApp, like we see here on the right. They can also chat with you via messages or many other tools that Intercom integrates with. And so you have your same interface where you're talking to them, but they are talking to you via the different channels that they're used to. And so, yeah, you can provide that support via WhatsApp, like many of your customers expect, especially if you're outside the US. But you don't have to do it via WhatsApp on a phone. You could do it via the interface and still have access to everything we had seen previously, right? So you can see all that, and you can get customer information and send them information about their invoices and attach files, etc., directly through the portal while they're on another channel. So very nice. As this is what I was talking to you about, the email signatures, right? So you can send messages through the portal, but they will still receive it in their inbox, as you can see here, an example on Gmail. They'll receive it just as a regular email, right? So you can do that. You can continue the conversation from multiple sources, etc., and of course track how it's going with little rating widgets, etc. And then this feature I have not used, but they have the ability of doing phone calls and video calls and screen sharing for troubleshooting. So you could be talking with someone and then sort of escalate the call to an actual call or video call, etc., and join in on the conversation that way. So great little tool. It's called Intercom. They've got all sorts of different levels for smaller companies, larger companies, enterprise. So I suggest checking it out, especially if you have a small business or medium business, whatever size business, and you're thinking of how you're going to manage all these support requests and keep people happy. Intercom, great tool. I suggest you check it out. Now, we've talked about Airtable. We've talked about Intercom. These are very different tools. Funnily enough, the example I gave with Airtable was a support system, but you can use it for whatever you want. Basically, you are replacing your spreadsheets with something a little smarter, a little easier to use, and that you can provide like role-based access to people so they can just see specific things, have different dashboards. So it's really nice for that. Intercom, great tool if you're planning on trying to manage support requests or even just the basic version, just having a live chat so that you can interact with people, have multiple members on your team talking with your customers and providing support. And sometimes even not just support, but the dripping content. Like if you need to send them content based on something they purchased, you can set up these sorts of things, which is really nice. And so finally, the last thing we're going to talk about today is actually a tool that sounds like it's a live chat thing, but it's more of a AI agent chat thing. It's called VoiceFlow, and it's really nice. We're using it for a customer to build a very unique agent that can give people answers based on their real vetted content. And that's where AI gets lost a bit, where I'll show you what that is in a second, but if you build a little LLM or something, then the problem is that the data could be real, but then also it could be hallucinating. And let me change the view here. So if you've never really interacted in the AI space, the LLM space, they're great tools. ChatGPT, we have Anthropic, we have Claude, we have Perplexity, we have Google Gemini, we have Grok. There's a bunch of them, and they're all good. And you can use them to generate content or to get responses to questions, even technical questions, even scientific questions. And now with the reasoning elements of them, they can do really advanced stuff. The problem is with data. Sometimes, especially if it's a very specific market or a controlled market like healthcare, you have to be very careful because these LLMs tend to hallucinate. And the concept of hallucination is that if it doesn't know enough, it will make it up. But it will make it up in a way where it feels like it's genuine. And so you're like, okay, cool, yeah, and you take it as it is, and that's not, you can just be getting a completely erroneous set of data. And so you have to be very careful. So an example I gave, because we do some WordPress training as well. And by the way, if you're interested at all in the WordPress space, we have a community, a free community on School, school.com/learn, and we teach all sorts of like how to build WordPress sites and do automations and e-commerce and membership and all that good stuff. Well, WordPress is a great tool, and there's a lot of documentation on it. However, it is still sort of a niche product, okay? And so what happens is if you go to an LLM, this is a good example, and you ask it, hey, how do I do this in code, if you're a developer, in WordPress? So since it's a very specific product, it might not know specific, and this is a little technical, it might not know specific functions that exist, like a specific hook or a filter, and don't worry if you don't understand what this is. It might not know that those exist or not exist. And so if it doesn't reason what it needs, it'll just make it up and make it sound legit. And so it might tell you, oh, for sure, use this function, and now you'll be able to query the person's scores based on the date they were enrolled. For example, I don't know if you have a learning management system. And if you put that code in the system and you didn't really check it first, it'll break and everything will break. And so the problem is that it hallucinates and it makes it sound like it actually knows. It does not know how to tell you, I don't know the answer. So that happens a lot with LLMs, just something to keep in mind. And they're getting better in a sense, but when there's something very particular, very specific, then that happens invariably. So voice flow. Why am I talking about voice flow? Voice flow is really nice because it allows you to build support agents. You see this little diagram, node diagram. You can build all these interactions and with a drag and drop interface, and you can say, okay, so this is a welcome message. From this welcome message, I then want to send them a list of things that they can tap on. And then from there, based on their question, I want it to go through an LLM as they're doing here. And so, for example, they ask me something, and then I want to say, okay, so send it to the LLM, and I could choose a different LLM. I could choose OpenAI, or I can choose Anthropic, I can choose whatever. And I can say, please use that LLM. Here's the question. Give me the answer, and then you can feed it back, or you can format it, or you could do whatever you want, and then continue with the flow. So maybe you're asking them to provide the details. Like, let's say you have a dance studio, and you need to know the dancer's age and the type of music they like and the type of dance, etc. And so you go through this flow, and at some point you need to get your class schedule, right? So if you just feed that to an LLM, the LLM's going to be like, yeah, of course, Monday to Friday or whatever. It's not going to be true, right? So you need to give reliable data at some point. And so that's where VoiceFlow shines, because it has this thing called KBs, or knowledge bases, which essentially, for the technical out there, it's a vector store. Okay, you don't have to know what that is, but a vector store allows the LLM to read and comprehend data based on how closely it relates to the query. All right, so I'll say it another way. You can set up a knowledge base with your data, structured data, and tell the LLM to search only within that. And if it doesn't find what it needs with a certain percentage of accuracy or confidence, then it can say, I don't know. And that's where it really shines, because you can build this system that takes people through a whole automated flow, automated conversation where they get all the information they need, but it's really pulling from data sources that are legitimate, that you gave it. And it's called retrieval augmented generation. And I hope I didn't say that wrong, but basically you create these flows that then can integrate and interface with your data. So an example with one of our customers, what we did was they have a huge forum with a lot of data. And so they wanted to provide within their website, if someone's talking to the chat, they wanted to give them the best experience out there. And so instead of providing generic answers to questions that one might find in the internet and that might be wrong, it goes and grabs data from the vector store, from the knowledge base, which is very specific to what to what they ask. But the most important thing of all is that it will only provide the correct answers, because in their forum they have like the best answers chosen by staff or curated, and so the answers that the agent is going to provide are going to be real answers that have been previously vetted. So that's where it really shines. And then you can have all sorts of other things where it can take people's input and store it, send it to another agent if you have another live agent system, etc. But if you're looking to just set up like a live chat where people can get data from your knowledge base, from what you already know, from documentation, things like that, VoiceFlow is a great tool. It's pretty simple to use in the sense that it is drag and drop. You might need to be a little technical for this one, more technical than the other two tools that we talked about, but still, it is a drag and drop interface. They have very good templates, and then they have a very nice community on Discord, I believe. Slack, or I think on Discord, and they have like weekly sessions. You can join in, you can ask your questions if you have any questions about specific things that you want to do. They're very good with the community, and so it's a great tool to provide a self-service AI agent based solution to customer requests, right? So that's that. I hope this has helped some of you. If you need something for your spreadsheets or customer support, these tools are excellent. So glad to be here today. We're gonna split some of these topics out into smaller chunks because this is gonna be a long video if you're trying to watch it later on as on demand on YouTube, etc. So we'll build some shorts out of this and share them out as well on the other networks. So thanks everyone for joining today. If you haven't and you're interested in all the WordPress stuff, remember, go to school.com/learn. You can see our content there. It's a very nice community because you can ask your questions, get them answered, and learn about building stuff on WordPress as well. And if you're a business owner, I hope these tools help as well. If you have questions about any of this, go into the community as well. I mean, obviously, leave your questions here on social, on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. But if you weren't able to do it live, go to the community. You can put the questions there, and I'll be happy to answer them as well. All right. See you next time.